Hello, fellow trash people, and welcome to the Rybrary. I am your librarian and head trash person. No talking in the Rybrary. Today I have a special review for you of Trash Tales, an anthology of trashy fiction, edited by Alex J. Gardner of Alex Unabridged and CriminOlly, two booktube channels that I'm a big fan of. So if I've never talked about my appreciation for CriminOlly here before. He is one of my favorite booktubers. He's probably the first booktuber that I started watching regularly, and got me really interested in this format. And definitely part of what inspired me to make this channel. He is a prolific book reader, often reading several books a week. And has a huge amount of experience and knowledge about books, and has read thousands and thousands of them. And I've gotten so many great recommendations from watching his channel. He's a very charming and endearing man, but one of the other really great things about Ali is that he is not at all pretentious about what he reads. He very much makes it clear that he reads anything pretty much, including lots of stuff I don't read and wouldn't want to read, but he's just open to whatever. He often reads what he refers to as trashy books, like, which he sort of describes as books that exist for just for entertainment, just for fun, can be kind of cheesy, can be campy, don't necessarily have a lot of big literary value or anything like that. So for several years now, Ali has been hosting this event in August called Garb August, where you're encouraged to read trashy fiction, and in the last couple of years has started publishing anthologies of trashy fiction. Last year he came out with one called Garbology. This past August he teamed up with Alex from Alex Unabridged to come out with a new anthology of short trashy fiction called Trash Tales. Ali and Alex seem like a great pair. I've since become a big fan of Alex's channel, Alex Unabridged. While Ali, is someone I really, admire a lot. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that he reads is not stuff that I necessarily want to read. But me and Alex definitely seem to have a lot in common taste-wise, and he seems to be interested in a lot of the kinds of horror and the kinds of sci-fi and stuff that I really like. So I've definitely become a fan of his channel as well. And so the two of them kindly provided me with an advanced reader copy of this book back in August, or maybe even July. So thank you guys so much again. I appreciate it so much. Spoiler, I loved this thing. To be clear, I'm as much as I appreciate being provided an advanced reader copy, that's not going to stop me from giving an honest opinion of this book, and that should always be the case. But fortunately, I loved this largely. It was so much fun. It was such a great collection of short fiction. These are, I believe, mostly like viewer submitted stories. So almost all amateur writers. And because they're viewer submitted from viewers of CriminOlly and from Alex Unabridged, they do tend to slant in a certain direction in terms of genre. The genres are actually kind of designated at the beginning of each story. There's like a genre icon that indicates what the story is. And I went through and counted the genres for each of the stories, and there's 13 horror stories, 6 crime stories, 4 sci-fi, 4 bizarro, and 1 western, which I really think honestly is a horror story. So I don't know if that even really counts, but it's labeled as a western. I was really impressed that these are mostly amateur writers who are coming up with these stories, and like how impressive and how polished most of this stuff is. There's only like a couple clunkers in here, in my opinion. And I enjoyed myself with almost all of these stories. As an amateur writer myself, it is sort of cool to see that, you don't have to have a lot of published works under your belt to be delivering really quality writing, and it's cool to see. referring to the heavy slant of the genres toward horror and crime fiction. Like I said, that makes sense due to the fact that, those are the genres that Ollie certainly focuses on and that Alex focuses on as well. I was kind of slightly disappointed by that because I'm obviously well acquainted, relatively speaking, well acquainted with horror. Maybe crime stuff to a little bit less degree. Definitely acquainted with sci-fi. So I'm fairly well acquainted with the genres that are well represented here. And I was kind of hoping for some stuff that was outside of my genre wheelhouse a little bit to get a taste of those kinds of things, particularly like trashy romance. I was sort of looking to check out. That's something that I don't have much experience with, and I've never read any like Danielle Steele or anything like that, and I was kind of hoping for some trashy romance in here, but unfortunately not really present. The other sort of thing of note about this to me is that like it isn't really what it purports to be, in that with some exceptions these stories aren't particularly trashy as far as I understand the definition of that term. They're just like really well made, constructed stories. It's not something that I can really complain about too much. These are actually good stories. So it's not really a trashy fiction thing. But all the same, I think it's worth mentioning that I didn't necessarily find a lot of this stuff trashy. So I really like the way that like this is laid out. There, as I said, there's like on the page before each story, there's like the title, the author, an icon indicating which genre that the story is, and then an estimated time that each story will take to read. So like 5 to 10 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes, that kind of thing, which I thought was really cool. It's nice to be like, okay, I have a few minutes. Can I take the time to read this particular story? I'll know up front that it's the appropriate length or not. And then also like a biography of each of the writers and their contact information and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do with regard to reviewing the individual stories here is that like, there's like 28 stories here. I definitely can't review all of them. So I've picked out my 10 favorites from here, and I'm gonna like give a little overview of each of these and kind of tell you about my feelings about what I liked about these 10. I tried to read this in August for Garb August, but I just like wasn't really in the mood to read that at the time, and that's kind of a thing for me, is like I'm a big mood reader, and I can't really get invested in something that I'm not in the mood to read at the time, and I wasn't in the mood to read this at the time. So I apologies that I couldn't get this out in Garb August, but better late than never, right? So I'm going to go over these 10 stories in the order in which they appear in the book, starting at the beginning. These aren't ranked at all. I didn't feel like that was the way I wanted to do this. The first story on the list, despite what I just said, might be my favorite story, and it's called You Always Drive Too Fast by S.J. Townend. I hope it's not Townsend. It says Townend in my, advanced reader copy of the book. I don't know if that was a typo or not, but so apologies if your name is Townend or is Townsend. This story is categorized under the Bizarro tag, and it is bizarre, and I love it. As the title suggests, this is about a man who always drives too fast and gets speeding tickets and that kind of thing, and gets chastised by his wife and family for this. So near his house, there is set up a one of those speed tracking signs to tell you how fast you're going and if you're speeding. But this particular one has like a digital smiley face on it that, has a frowny face if you're speeding and a smiley face if you're not. When he first encounters this, he's speeding and it's frowning, and then he slows down and it starts smiling, and he realizes that he really likes the feeling of approval and validation that he gets from this digital sign, smiley face, and proceeds to get progressively more obsessed with this sign and with getting its approval and making it smile. This is unhinged in the best possible way. It's so bizarre, and part of what makes it good is that it's subtle. There's some other stories in this collection that are definitely not subtle, and just kind of go all out. But this is just like this guy's kind of creeping, gradually increasing mania with regard to this sign and the crazy things he starts to do. And I was just like, my jaw was open, like reading this thing. And it's not very long. It's like 5 to 10 minutes long, but like it really packs a punch for the its short time. And I just was like, wow, what am I reading right now? But I loved it. The second story here that I'm going to talk about is a sci-fi story, and it's called The Roma Project by Vincent St. Clair. The Roma Project is a code name for a like, I think, government or some kind of government agency project that is taking place in laboratories deep underground, where they are studying psychic orangutans or chimpanzees. I don't remember exactly, but one of those two. Yeah. So there's psychic orangutans in this, and here we have some real stuff that you might call trashy. There's a lot of violence, animal violence, and a lot of like slapsticky violence. There's also a lot of like sex in this, and like this story, nothing about this story calls for sex to be part of it, but it makes it so much more enjoyable, and really amps up the camp and the trash factor, and it was just really enjoyable for that reason. The third story here that I have written down is Not His Name by Arthur Ursini, and this is a crime story. This is about a mob lieutenant, I think, who is from New York or Philly or somewhere thereabouts, and is traveling to, I think, Kentucky or Kansas. Can't remember, but one of those two, a small town in Kentucky or Kansas, and is seeking to find a particular person, and we discover pretty early on that this person is part of the KKK. And there's lots of violent encounters with KKK members here. The twist is who the person is, and why they're here, and that kind of thing. And I won't talk about that. But this is just really great. This is a really great moody crime story. Great atmosphere. The violence is not super over the top, but it is like potent and packs a punch. Where it's used. This also like deals with some themes of family and loyalty, and what lengths people go to fulfill what they see as their duty. And it's got like a really great noir kind of feel to it, and I just appreciated it a lot. The next story is called The Dromedary by Mark Ervolo. If you don't know what a dromedary is, it's a camel. It's a variety of camel with one hump. I think regular camels have two humps, and a dromedary has one hump. So, yeah. This story is about a young man who has just gotten out of prison after doing a few years for some crimes that he did, gang stuff, I think. His mom has picked him up from prison, and they're driving, back to wherever they live, and then they stop off to get, breakfast or lunch at a diner, and outside a dromedary that was being transported along the same road has gotten out of its container and is wreaking havoc and attacking people. There's a lot of really visceral, gruesome violence that happens at the hands of this dromedary. I was like sort of surprised that you could make camel violence that effective and that upsetting. So good on Mr. Ervolo for managing to do that. Thematically, this story is about this kid who really wants to like do right and has made some mistakes and is like really trying to atone for them, and is trying to please his mother and be a good son for his mother, who doesn't necessarily seem all that great either. And he sees this rampaging dromedary and saving the day in this situation as being his way to, atone for the things that he's done, and to, make his mother proud, whether or not, he actually should be caring about making his mother proud. But yeah, and, again, great tone, great atmosphere, and like I said, the gruesome camel violence was really well done. The next story is maybe the trashiest in terms of like wanton, cartoonish violence, and that story is called Catch of the Day by Merrick Z. Turner. This is about a fisherman, a crab fisherman in England who is, falling on hard times financially, and it's getting harder and harder to survive, and is pushed to go to more and more dangerous places to fish for crab. This like expensive crab that he goes and then later sells to fancy restaurants. And so he goes to this one particular spot that he hasn't gone to before, and catches some crabs, and discovers that these are super, genetically mutated, super powered crabs that begin attacking right away, and he manages to get them locked away. But shortly thereafter, a group of thieves, I guess, pirates maybe, I guess, because they're on a boat, knock him out and steal his cargo, and then he proceeds to try and like track them down and get his cargo back. I kept thinking, reading this, of Planet Terror by Robert Rodriguez, the half of the Grindhouse thing that he did with Quentin Tarantino. Just because of the like ridiculous violence and like the like slapsticky level of violence. It was so much fun. This is sort of just like this guy's had it all that he can take, and he's gonna go crazy on everyone who's wronged him sort of energy to it. The next story is called Ice Cream in the Woods by Dylan B. Hendrick. This is another horror story. And this is like a sort of kids on bikes, nostalgic horror story, kind of like Stephen King's It, about a bunch of young, preteen, early teen boys who are, like riding their bikes around this lake, and they come to encounter an ice cream truck by the lake. And the man there serving ice cream is not what he seems. This story had such amazing, visual descriptions. I could like perfectly see what this setting, by this lake, and then in the area where the ice cream truck is parked, where most of the story takes place. I could perfectly visualize all of it, and I was really impressed by that. In addition to like the more straightforward horror elements here that I'm not gonna talk about because it'll spoil things, but there's also this just theme that is really well executed about, when you're a kid and you for the first time discover that, someone who you are accustomed to trusting, like the ice cream man and that kind of thing, may not, be what they seem, and may not, be safe to be around, and learning for the first time, that strangers can be scary. Another story with Stephen King energy, but with a different kind of Stephen King energy, is the next one on the list, and that's another horror story called Legacy by S.M. Davis. This is about a man whose husband, I believe, is sick or got in an accident. I can't remember exactly, but is like, battling for his life in some way, and the husband goes and seeks out the help of a witch in resolving this, and does manage to resolve his health issue, but when it comes time to fulfill his part of the bargain, he doesn't necessarily follow through, and that leads to disastrous kinds of consequences. And this puts me in mind of my favorite Stephen King book, which is Pet Sematary, and in the theme of like what grief or fear or the desire to save a loved one, what that will push people to do, and push them past the point of thinking rationally about their decisions and about their consequences. I also just, it shouldn't matter, but being that this was a gay man, a gay couple, and I'm a gay man and have a husband, and can put myself in this position of being afraid more easily than maybe with a straight couple. It definitely like resonated for me a little bit more. The next story on the list is called Bloodemic, like blood pandemic, or blood epidemic or whatever, which is a word I never thought I would say in my life. So here we go. Bloodemic. This is another horror one, and this is by Hokunani Sorsi, a Hawaiian author, I believe, from the little bio. This is about a post-apocalyptic sort of thing where the apocalypse in question is like a demonic hell on earth type apocalypse. There is an explanation for why this has happened, but there are these demonic creatures that kind of roam the world now, and they seem to appear in the locations where there are these blood storms where blood rains, from from the red sky, which is always red, I think. Just that imagery and that idea is so good, is so appealing to me as a horror fan, of just like blood raining, and that's some pretty hellish imagery. The story follows a man who is like surviving in this new apocalypse, but like spending the times when it's safe to go out to get provisions and to reinforce his apartment. The meat of the story mostly though is him having this interaction with someone who's at his door begging to be let in, and it's like this. It's mostly this discussion back and forth between them, and him trying to weigh the pros and cons of like, well, I could let this person in, he could potentially be helpful, but it could be another mouth to feed. It could be someone who he could do something stupid and get us all killed, and like these are relatively well trod themes in post-apocalyptic fiction, but it's really well executed here in a really concise way. It's a pretty short one, and I just thought it was really well executed and a great concept. Yet another horror story. The next one is it's called A Face in the Shadows by Timothy Adams. This is a gothic horror story, very much in that tradition. It takes place in I think the late 1800s. And it's about a man who is in love with a woman, and the woman's sister grows very jealous of their relationship. And it's sort of unclear if she's jealous of her sister being taken away or she wants the man himself. It's sort of like her descending into madness and sort of taking the two of them with her, and this definitely has themes of mental health and the way mental health was treated by people in the 1800s, and the way mental health with women in particular was treated in the 1800s, and it's really well done, really spooky. And finally, the last story I have here on my list, and the story that closes out the collection, is a story called Ampersand by S.T. Talbot, and it's in the Bizarro categorization in this collection, and it is certainly super bizarre, and I loved it. The premise of this story is that a young man who is becoming sexually active learns from his uncle that in order to please a woman in terms of oral sex is to draw an ampersand with his tongue while performing or the oral sex act, and he starts doing this, and to great effect, and then he starts experimenting with writing other things while performing oral sex on women. It's absolutely deranged and hilarious. I was cracking up reading this because it'll have descriptions of the woman's reactions to what he's doing, interspersed with the words that he's writing, which are often just crazy things that just pop into his head, and the back and forth between those two things is so funny, and I was cracking up reading this. And this all leads to a place which is incredibly bizarre and surreal, like David Lynch level weird ending to this story, and there, and by extension ending to this collection. And I don't think it could have gone out in any better way. It's just wild and great. So there you have it, folks. My review of Trash Tales, edited by CriminOlly and Alex from Alex Unabridged. Thank the two of you again so much for providing me with this incredible collection in an advanced reader copy. I will definitely be linking their channels, as well as where you can purchase copies of Trash Tales in the description. So definitely check that out. Let me know in the comments if you've read Trash Tales, or if you have any particular trashy fiction that you're fans of. I'm always looking for recommendations about that kind of thing. As usual, thank you all so much for visiting the Rybrary. Stay safe, stay trashy, and you may now talk.